first webinar in the Employer Mentorship Series. My name is Luis Garcia, and I work on the CareersNOW program as part of my job as Director of the Center for Meat Innovation and Technology. So let me tell you a little bit about the CareersNOW Mentorship Series. The series offers interactive sessions with speakers who will provide advice and guidance on key labor issues. The sessions are designed for employers who are eager to make improvements in their operations. And we have a list of different topics that are upcoming in the next couple of months, like attracting and recruiting new Canadians into your workforce, the new workplace normal, how to manage issues of compensation, benefits, etc. Building your brand as an employer, profiling your business, making a commitment to workforce professional development. Hiring people with disabilities is key for the future in terms of finding solutions to our labor challenges. Also Indigenous people and the workforce. So there are different topics that we try to address to help companies solve or find solutions to their workforce challenges. Today's session will cover all you need to know about successful recruiting and hiring of Gen Z and recent grads. And to achieve that, we're lucky to have a panel of distinguished speakers. First at the mic will be Pat Beauchamp. Pat has been a social researcher for over 30 years, including the past 9 with Hill Knowlton, where he is vice president in their data and analytics group. He's been conducting survey and other research with FBO since 2015, and he's also worked with Food and Beverage Skills Canada on several LMI studies over the years. Some of his other research clients have included Saputo, Nespresso, Molson Coors, McCain Foods, Instacart, and the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. Pat is going to present an analysis of a survey on the topic conducted for CareersNOW. After Pat, we're going to have Pauline Zweirs, who is Vice President of Human Resources at Conestoga Meats. Pauline has worked in human resources for over 25 years. She started in food retail with Loblaw companies and then moved to the meat industry, having been with Conestoga Meats for 11 years. Pauline has been an advocate for the industry on labor issues and has worked with many organizations over the years to work on possible solutions. She's been active in applying her learning and testing solutions at Conestoga over the years and is happy to share some of those ideas with us today. As we were just chatting before the session got started, Pauline is a champion for the industry in terms of HR issues and how to solve them. So she's going to present her firsthand experience in recruiting and hiring recent grads. Nicole Gallace with FoodGrads has many years of experience in creating and finding talent solutions for the food and beverage industry. She won't be speaking or making a presentation today, but she is here to help us answer some of your questions that I'm sure are going to be very interesting. Just letting you know that we are recording this webinar, and the recording is going to be available to members of FBO and MPO, Meat and Poultry Ontario. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Pat for his presentation. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you. Thanks, Luis. I've never been referred to as distinguished, so that's good. Feels nice.
There's always a first time.
I'm going to share screen. Do you see the cover page?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So this is going to take about 20 minutes, maybe a little less. So I'm going to be showing you some Gen Z related findings of a survey that we did in the summer of 2023. And it's a follow-up sort of, because it's the same sort of themes and sort of the same sort of people that responded to the survey with some differences. But we've done something similar back in 2015 and 2018 so that we can compare a little bit over time. Some of the issues that we looked at perceptions of jobs and careers in the food and beverage processing. So what do they think? What do people think? What people value generally in the workplace and in their relationship with employers. We asked respondents about their openness to working in the food and beverage processing. Would you do it? Would you consider it? And then from a comms outreach standpoint, we looked at employment career information sources. So where have people gone and to get that sort of information? And we did a little bit of message resonance testing. Methodology slide's pretty simple. So we surveyed a total of 1,150 people. And here's who they are. So there are a lot of the groups that Luis was referring to in his intro. Newcomers, Indigenous people, persons with a disability, I think was mentioned. But anyway, here's who we talked to. Now, if you look at these Ns means number. So these Ns obviously add up to more than 1,150. It's because people could count in more than one category. So you could be a young employment seeker. You could be a disabled Indigenous person. So you would count in 2 categories. Fortunately, we had a critical mass of Gen Z aged people that we could do some analysis with. So I had to recut the data because the original was based on looking at these categories and reporting that way, but now I recut it to look by age. So it's Gen Z versus everybody who's older. And we also had enough Gen Z cases back in 2015 and 2018 to be able to do a little comparison over time. So I'll show you that. Some of that's pretty interesting. So the highlights, I've only got a slide and a half. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of text slides. What do we see? In terms of differences, okay, there's more similarities than differences, but we probably want to emphasize some of the differences. The main ones would be Gen Z places more importance, more value on diversity and making a difference with the environment. So that stands out. The skilled trades are relatively less interesting to them. So that's a persistent problem still there. Being part of a union has become more interesting, but it's still a low priority. Working from home is less important. And this makes sense in light of a few other things. In terms of what people think of careers in food and beverage processing, generally like the whole sample and what we've seen in the past, it's mixed, but with a bit of a lean towards the negative, but Gen Z is similar to the rest of the sample. Comparing them over time, we'll see that compared to 2015, results in 2018 were much more positive, and they're pretty much the same in 2023. So there was a big shift in 2015 towards the positive for this group. We did something interesting, I think. We did like a head-to-head matchup. So we said, would you rather work for this company or that company? And we identified them. And so we have results on that. So it's like food and beverage companies versus non-food and beverage companies, big brands in Ontario, Canada, really. In terms of outreach and messaging, the differences for Gen Z, more likely, not surprisingly, to rely on guidance counselors and social media to look for information. And in terms of messaging, the 2 things that stand out, again, the differences is respect for the environment and working in a culturally diverse company. All right, so let's look at some numbers. This is a short version of what I could show you. So first thing here, this is an agree, disagree question. They're all 7-point scales, and we tend to emphasize the 5, 6, 7 end of the scale. So that's agreement. So here's the statement. It's important that the organization I work for shares my value. This is the Gen Z. This is the rest of the sample. In other words, the older people. Okay, but they're all part of the labor force. So they're not retired. They're not looking for. So if they're not working, they're looking for work. They're all sort of in play. I should have mentioned that. So we've got the comparison. And a lot of the times it's not that much different. So I'm going to emphasize where it is different. And we see the skilled trades. So skilled trades pay very well. I'd be proud to tell somebody I work in a skilled trade. It's among Gen Z. It's still most people agreeing with that, but it's lower. More detailed question. This time it's what Gen Z sort of values, again, compared to the rest of the sample. This time we asked them to rate how important are each of the following to you in a job or career. So the question wording is always at the bottom. And this is the proportion that said 5 to 7 important. So the scale goes from 1 to 7. And so here's the point. Like, it's important, I think, not to get carried away with, I mean, yes, Gen Z is different, but it's important not to lose sight of the fact that there are mostly similarities, right? So it's like pay and benefits, job security, work-life balance, opportunities for promotion. That's important to everybody. Those are your big ticket items. Where it's different is in these, maybe these secondary, sort of a second tier of things. And here we see that it's consistent throughout. We'll see that having a positive impact on environmental sustainability, that's a little higher. Working with a culturally diverse group of people, 69 to 60, that's significantly higher. Flexibility to work from home, that's a little less important. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Working with technology, a little bit less important. Being part of a union, actually more important, but it's last on the list. So it's important to always have perspective on these things. Here's where we can look at it over time. So this is a lot of the same list. We expanded this list in 2023, but we could only compare to what we had in 2015. And so it's all the big ticket items, working conditions, pay and benefits. So this is just Gen Z, as it turns out. So 2015 compared to today, look, it's pretty, look how consistent that is. That's pretty neat. But then being part of a union, big difference. Big brands go head to head. So here it's important to understand how the question was set up. So the rationale for it, I think, if I remember, was, when we ask people about their openness to working in the industry, we've often described it in general terms. The food and beverage processing industry, sector, company, but it's food and beverage processing. So what would happen if we were to actually use brands? And the other part of the hypothesis was, is there a difference between, let's say, technical positions and professional positions? So would an accountant, would an HR person be more or less willing to work for a food and beverage processor than another brand? So let's find out. So this is how we ask the question. I think that's important. Please imagine that you're professional working in areas like human resources, marketing, that sort of stuff. And then technical, it wasn't so much on the line because like the jobs have to have something in common across the brands. So we did technical field shipping and receiving, IT support, machine operator, and so on. Okay, so here are the results. There's a lot on this slide. So walk you through it a little bit. So here are the food and beverage processors. Oh, by the way, each person got 3 pairs. Okay, like you couldn't subject people to all of these. Also, this isn't just for Gen Z, it's the whole sample. There's not enough Gen Z cases to do it just for Gen Z. So this is everybody. And so here are our brands. It's Coke, like we had to pick somebody. Coca-Cola, Heinz, Kraft Heinz, Maple Leaf, going up against Scotiabank, Rogers, Apple, so on and so forth. They're all in Ontario. And then these are the scores for the professional, technical. So people were randomly assigned these things. Some got the technical, some got the professional, some got, like everyone got these 3, but then they got some of these, 3 of them. Here are the results. So the professional and technical, if we just look like this with our eyes, the pattern's pretty much the same. So let's collapse them and go down to the combined. So this is professional and technical combined. The percentages are the number of times that this company beat out that company. So if it's low, it means that, so for example, Coca-Cola against Scotiabank, Coca-Cola won 37% of the time. People said, I'd rather work for Coke. So if we look at this together, Scotiabank beats food and beverage processors, at least the ones that we picked. Rogers, it's pretty close. Ontario Power Generation, they edge out the food and beverage processors. Look at Apple. So Apple People want to work for Apple. Loblaws, it's sort of a mix, but it's probably pretty even. Canadian Tire, slight edge. Ford, food and beverage processors are competitive with Ford. Government of Ontario wins out. And then Amazon wins out, but it's fairly competitive. Perceptions of food and beverage processing. So at a certain point, here's the question we ask people. So from what you've heard, what are your overall impressions of jobs and careers in the food and beverage processing industry? So you see how we've always asked the question, food and beverage processing industry. This makes it more realistic. So we've got Gen Z and the rest of sample, so very positive to very negative. Here I've isolated just the 7 and the 6 point, and we see Gen Z less positive than the older folks in the sample. And now if we include the 5, 6, and the 7, it tends to be more positive than negative on both sides, with a plurality in the middle. So Gen Z is a little less enthused. This is the same question asked over time. So this is what I was referring to at the start. We've got 2015. This is your positive. This is your kind of middle, and this is your negative. Shouldn't be neither. So back then it was 17. It rose to 40%. Wow, everyone's happy. It's still pretty high at 35%, relatively speaking, in 2023. So that's good. So that momentum is sort of carried. This one, we ask people, so we compare sectors on a bunch of different dimensions. So this one, I think it's blocked out. I just don't want to click on this in case I lose the screen. Oh, hey, that worked. So this is pay and benefits. So we asked this question for these sectors. So financial services, healthcare, construction, here's us, food and beverage processing, retail. So we say, when it comes to pay and benefits, would you rate this as good or poor in this sector? And we did that for pay and benefits and about 6 or 7 other attributes, but I'm just going to show you 2 of them. So here it is overall. So financial services, guess what? People think financial services, the pay and benefits are good. 78%, rest of the sample, we see it's pretty close. Gen Z, rest of the sample. Construction's a bit of a difference. So let's go down to food and beverage processing. 28% of Gen Z says, yeah, I think it's probably good. So most don't think that. And compared to the rest of the sample, 33%. Same idea, but this time it's work-life balance. Food and beverage processing does better. So it's sort of more towards the middle. It's 45%, 39%. Yeah, it's kind of close. Look what's last, healthcare. This makes intuitive sense to me, that people would say your work-life balance in healthcare is not great. Now this one, there's a lot going on here. I'm going to draw your attention to this side of the slide. Don't look at the right side yet. So this is over time. So what this is, it's all of these averaged. Okay, so it's like getting a job, working conditions, opportunities for promotion, quality, pay and benefits. We've asked those each year, and this is just for Gen Z. So here's that difference that we see back in 2015. It goes up on all these individual dimensions. This is getting a job, and the scale is easy or hard. So people think it's getting easier. So we see this is a positive increase. Now, sometimes what happens is that you have a survey where everything is an increase or everything has gone down. So here's where we go to this side, and we see if the pattern is the same. It's not. It's the yellow is as high or higher. This yellow is much lower. So it means that this was specific to food and beverage processing. It means that it's more quote unquote real, okay? But then if we also look at this, food and beverage processing across the board tends to be lower, which is a reflection of these, for example, pay and benefits and these other dimensions. So this is an average of all of these others. Okay, outreach and messaging. So we ask people, here's a list, select all the ones that you've used as information sources about jobs and careers. And here's what we find. So again, it's important not to get carried away or lose perspective. The one on top, major job sites like Indeed, Career Builder, Monster, Gen Z has used those to the same extent as the rest of the sample. This is number one. Then we've got these secondary ones, less likely to have been used by Gen Z, makes sense. They've been in the workforce less for a shorter period of time. Where the differences are is in these maybe third tier sources. So work integrated learning programs, guidance counselor, social media, which makes intuitive sense. We did some message resonance testing. This is the full text. I won't go over it, but just have a scan of what these are. So job security. So let's say we emphasize these things. How will people react? They're all fact-based, pretty much. They've all got numbers. So there was not everybody got all of these. Again, it was a split sample. So job security, that's number one. So that message resonates the most. But look at this difference here. For Gen Z, we respect the environment, that message. Much better than the rest of the sample. We go down to the bottom. Cultural diversity, it's not more important than job security. We need perspective. It's not more important than paying benefits. But look at this, 59%. It is important, relatively speaking. So at 2 points in the survey, we asked people, so would you consider a career in the food and beverage processing industry? We did it at the beginning, and then we did it at the end, or sort of in the middle and at the end. At the end, they had gotten the messages, and there was another question that described jobs, like specific jobs, and asked if they would be interested. So they had some information about the sector. And this is what we get. So earlier in the survey, you got 7% saying, yeah, absolutely, I would consider that. Rest of the sample is 12. So again, it's lower, a bit lower interest among Gen Z. By the end of it, it almost doubles to 13%. The 6 and the 7, the rest of the sample sort of goes up equally. So it goes up. So you tell people about it. They're like, yeah, okay, it's more interesting than I thought it would. So if we take those two questions, and there was another one that looked at openness to working in the sector. And if you do a statistical analysis, the ones that are statistically more significantly open, okay, like these are our groups. Remember, like these were our starting out groups at the beginning. This is who we surveyed. Oops. Employment seekers, much more likely. I guess that's not surprising, but if you're looking for work, you're much more likely to be open. But also newcomers, so that's immigrants that have been here 5 years or sorry, less than 5 years. Parents for some reason, and like we looked at gender, we looked at different things. But this is what comes out. And then 35s to 44s are more open. The middle, which is not more open, not less, that's where Gen Z is, Indigenous people, persons with a disability. People that are less interested is like this older youth segment, 27 to 34s. Last thing, I'm going to leave you with this. This is from another study that we did for FPSC. And this one was specifically to look at generational differences. It's from 2020, so it's a bit dated, but I think it's still, it would probably hold true, I think. So if we compare older workers to Gen Z, older workers are more self-sufficient generally. They have modest expectations, they're happy, they require less feedback, they're fine to do things on their own. They kind of want to be left alone. It's like, it's a job, pay me, I'm going to go home. I don't want to go to the party. These guys are different, Gen Z. So they expect more than a paycheck. We had questions, a whole bunch of questions. And the upshot is they're looking to make friends. They want to have some fun at work. They want a supervisor that's friendly. Sense of belonging is important. They want to know how the organization contributes. They like feedback. They want a lot of feedback. Structure makes sense for them. They value these health and wellness sort of policies and programs. Hey, there's fresh fruit in the lunchroom and free snacks, that sort of stuff. And of course, they value diversity. When I looked at that back then, it reminded me of like these guys, it's like school. So if I had to do like a shorthand, like one thing to keep in mind is that these guys are used to school and they might still be in a school mentality a little bit. Like your boss is kind of like your teacher and you want to have buddies and so on and so forth. So that's what I would, that's my takeaway from this. And that's it.
Thank you, Pat, for a very interesting presentation. I have to admit I'm a bit surprised that there are so many similarities, because that's not the perception we generally get. Unless there's a burning question, I'd like to leave those questions for the end, for the panel discussion later. Any burning questions? No? Okay, so then I'm gonna turn it over to Pauline Zweirs. So can you go ahead with your presentation, please? Thank you.
So thank you for having me. I just wanted to say that I'm learning things in this presentation, and I think that that's fabulous. I'm, not particularly an expert in Gen Z or recent grads, but we do have some experience recruiting them and working on our retention. So I'm going to go through a few things that we've been doing, and you can go to the next slide. And, really, these are just some ideas that we've had, and I hope that you'll take away some things from this presentation as well. I'm going to focus on two particular areas. One is recruitment, and specifically what we have been doing from a social media standpoint, as well as with our co-op program, and then just a few things around retention, both around setting expectations with Gen Z and some things in the work environment. I was glad to hear some of the things in Pat's presentation, because sometimes you do wonder if you're on the right track or not, but some of the things I hope I say will be consistent with some of the things that he's found. So on to the next slide. Oops. And so I wanted to start with some of the work that we've been doing in recruitment and really focusing in on our social media strategy. We do know that the Gen Zs are digitally savvy and definitely online. And so that is why we chose to focus in this area. We are now, and over the last probably 2 years, have been focusing really on getting online with Facebook, Twitter, which is now, I guess, X, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and really increasing our presence there. Our material really tries to focus in on showing who we are and connecting us with purposes beyond what we just do as a company producing meat. We are not just a meat plant. We do, we have other purposes as well. And often we think it's because, how exciting is a meat plant, and we've got to get people beyond that. And so some of our campaigns are really focused around, we are about families and farms. So we put out features like our Conestoga Farmer feature to connect us with agriculture and our roots. We also have been focusing on fun. We heard Pat speak about that. We are primarily an in-person facility, and so trying to communicate that we have fun here at work, like our Christmas sweater day that we just had recently over the holidays. And then also we are connected with our community and like to support that. So the other post was from a toy drive that we also did over Christmas. And so we can go on to the next slide. The other thing that we believe resonates with Gen Z is this connecting to our values. And so we definitely make a point of working on highlighting those within our social media and our recruitment campaigns. We've had regular feedback from candidates that reading our values is one of the reasons why they continued on through the recruitment process. And we do know that it draws people in. This may be Gen Z specific. I think it's probably broader than that, but it has proven, like I said, very useful for us. People want to make sure that they are aligned with an organization's values, and I think that is particularly true from a Gen Z perspective. We really work also to ensure that so the image we are displaying on social media is consistent with our values, and ultimately, and I'll talk about this a little further down in the presentation, but that the experience that they have when they are working with us is also consistent with the values that we have. Next slide. And so the other piece that I want to talk about is just our co-op program. So we have our advertising campaigns, then we have our co-op program. And this is a very important part about reaching out to that Gen Z group as well as recent grads. We used to only have about, call it 5 or 6 co-ops annually. Over the course of the last few years, we have actually bumped up that program to the point where we have at a minimum 20 co-ops in a given year. And for a company where our salaried group, including our salaried operations staff, sits at about 120 people, that's quite a contingent of co-ops to be bringing through on an annual basis. And the goal here with the co-ops has been around really providing them with an engaging experience. And so, yes, it is a bit of work to do that, but why would we do that? So the point is they then share that with their friends. And so the better experience they have with us, the more positively they talk about us, and they share that with their broader communities. We know that, you know, amongst the university crowds, there's lots of chat groups and where they are talking about the experience they've had both with teachers and in the classroom and courses, as well as with their co-op experiences. So providing that positive experience is very important to us. It helps to build our brand, and then, quite honestly, helps us to even get a better quality candidate with each successive round that we go through. And the other thing that Jason had actually asked me to talk about was how we communicate the ROI of this program with the various managers across the business or the various leaders. Oftentimes the perspective of a co-op program is that it's a lot of work, and you know, you just get the person trained up and then back off they go to back to school. And so when we do, or when we have received pushback, some of the things that we highlight is, first and foremost, not all co-op programs are 4 months. Oftentimes we can find programs that are 8 months, or if you are engaging a co-op, say in the spring term, you know, you could extend that through to the summer months and you know, have them through their summer holidays as well. We talk about the program really helping to create that positive overall brand out there, which just helps with our recruitment strategy overall. And that could lead, when they have a vacancy, to a better quality and quicker hire than maybe they've received in past. The other benefit of the co-ops is, you know, they really are capable of doing meaningful work. And so that is something that we really try to provide to them. And it's what they want, and it is good for the manager or employer as well. They often come with great research skills. We know they are computer savvy. And so oftentimes we may pair them up with someone who is a bit less computer savvy, but has awesome experience in the business, and what they're able to create together is some really great work, and I think appreciated on both sides of that relationship. We work with our managers to make sure we create good specific job descriptions. Again, that will create a meaningful experience for both the mentor or manager that they have in the business, as well as the student. And then I guess the next benefit is that really the co-op provides that manager with a preview of a potential future employee. We've had many examples of co-ops coming back for either some additional part-time work, which can really help us with short-term projects. They return for full-time contracts, and we've certainly had some great experiences transitioning some of those co-ops into full-time employees with us, which is, I mean, the best outcome overall. And I mean, I guess all of this to say that the co-op program has been a key and very important part of our connection with that Gen Z group of employees or potential employees. Okay, on to the next. And so I've spent some time talking about recruitment and co-op programs. Now I want to focus a little bit on retention. And so when we have been recruiting for positions, new grads, Gen Zs for positions, I think we have recognized a few things. And so there are some things that we have begun to get really more intentional about than we had been perhaps in past. And this is really about setting expectations up front, clarity on roles and responsibilities, and clarity on career progression. Sometimes I'm going to say expectations are a bit unrealistic. And so we want to make sure that that stage is set right up front. We know that compensation is important, not just to Gen Zs, but to everybody right now. And we just want to make sure that they don't go into the role thinking that 10% pay increases and that sort of thing are normal. And so we do provide them with a bit of a path and talk about, increases can be anywhere from 3 to 4% on average, and just to give them a bit of a view to what they might be expecting in the future. Similarly with career progression is, we would expect that you would probably be in this role for about 2 to 3 years. Beyond that, here are the different opportunities that you might progress to, but really setting that stage that they're not going to become a manager in most normal circumstances within the next year. So it's really just important to set those boundaries and stages up front. And then the same with just the job expectations and what they are doing. So everybody wants projects, and those are often the fun things to work on. What we've been working on, even in our roles, is, ensuring that every role has a portion of project work in it, so that there is that opportunity there, but then also talking about why the importance of the day-to-day work is important to complete as well, and how that connects to the larger purpose within the business. We have found that providing that engaging work experience is important, to have fun and to make sure that is a part of our regular weekly environment, and that there's an opportunity for both collaboration as well as a good level of individual recognition for this group. We also know that, I think it was pointed out earlier, is they like learning, they're used to learning, and so we engage in regular ongoing development with them, as well as have a feedback process that we have instilled with our manager group to make sure that they get good feedback through one-to-ones with their leaders. It also helps to establish that good relationship with them, and they like that contact and connectivity. one of the things, and we might change our tact based on what I heard earlier, but we have found, and maybe it's more connected to the work-life balance piece, but that they do enjoy some level of flexibility. And so we have opened up options for some different hours of work. We, again, we're a manufacturing facility. We are primarily an on-site work environment, but we have been able to offer some flexibility when it comes to hours of work. And there are some opportunities for some remote work flexibility. And so then finally, as is the picture on screen of one of our previous co-ops, Genevieve. She was an engineering co-op with us and then came back for a second term. So one of our success stories from a co-op perspective, we find that we always want to be making sure that they are connected with that larger purpose. So as said, the environment is very important to her. So we did make sure that her work was connected to that purpose that she aligned with. And so these are just some of the things we have been working on or working through as we take a look at Gen Zs and our new grad programs. I hope that you've taken a nugget out of something I've said, and what I've shared with you today. So thank you very much.
That was excellent information to share with us, and congratulations on the great work that Conestoga does in managing their human resources. It's really outstanding. Are there any questions from the group? We don't have a large group. Erin Mawson, do you have any questions for our presenters?
I actually do have a question. I'm curious how you're keeping up on social media trends. Like, I know I have two kids who are kind of in that Gen Z millennial, sector. And it seems like, from one week to the next, there's a new social media platform that's popular. What is engaging to Gen Z versus, a boomer in social media. So like, are you actually using Gen Z employees to help keep the company on track with what's how social media is working and what's new and what's cool?
It's a very interesting question that you ask, and you are exactly right. We actually have two very Gen Z individuals working on our talent team, and they are key parts of the work that we do in terms of the posts that we make, and determining what we are tapping into. And I mean, really, one of your best resources are those that are within your business,
Right.
And so they are absolutely a key part of strategy and help determine where we go with things. We also we have just done some of our own research, and I mean, interestingly, we don't have a communications person. We don't have a social media expert on site. This has all just been through kind of our own organic research and learning, and just testing it against the research that is out there. And we do get our research from Food Processing Skills Canada, CareersNOW, and some of those sources.
Speaking, one more question, I'm sorry. Are you finding that social media outreach that you're doing is also effectively reaching people with disabilities, Indigenous folk, like that sort of thing, as well as effectively as it is Gen Z specifically?
Yeah, I mean, we, from a diversity standpoint, we we have a very diverse workforce. We have individuals from over 30 different countries working with us, and I think different groups uh, gear towards different social media platforms,
Mhm.
but we've found very broad reach and range. And I mean, for people with disabilities, we still do go through some of the associations and that sort of thing as well. But at this point, I mean, honestly, most associations, most areas are, I would call them connected in.
Yeah. So relying on one social media platform is not ideal. The more, the better. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, Facebook, we find, so our temporary foreign workers and often new immigrants.
Mm.
Facebook is really where they're at. We've found LinkedIn to be honest, from a job seeker standpoint, one of our best platforms from an awareness and a reach perspective. So I would say that those two are probably our main ones.
Thank you.
Pauline, following up on that question, do you also use other platforms for recruitment? So where do you post your jobs?
Oh boy. Um, all over the place. We probably use every recruitment strategy and source under the sun. I mean, we've posted with CareersNOW. We've posted. Indeed is a huge part of our campaign. We post with a variety of local organizations, and those ones are particularly more the outreach organizations from people with disabilities, Aboriginals, etc. And we have also used various recruitment agencies and such to post our jobs. We post a lot at schools. So if we're talking, this is about Gen Zs and recent grads, we have a very large campaign at schools. We bring the other thing that we do is try to reach those groups of individuals before they graduate. We've brought multiple groups from multiple different colleges and universities through for tours, etc. And then we participate on site at those colleges and universities as well.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a comment to make, if that's okay. I have to say,
yes.
Conestoga have done an amazing job of promoting themselves, because we've been doing this a while, trying to, amplify the different career paths and the companies that are involved in the food and beverage processing space. And sometimes you feel like you're speaking into the wind, but I think as an organization, you've really taken what the advice has been, the research from Hill Knowlton and all that kind of thing. And I think it is worthwhile. I think recently you shared "What Does a Butcher Do" video, and I mean, it's cool. It's the way you presented it is really fun. Of course, FoodGrads is there sharing, CareersNOW will share it, So I will say anything that where FoodGrads is tagged, we share it because we know that audience is people that are interested to learn more. And obviously our mandate is to attract people into the industry. So I think you've done an amazing job, and I would agree, you can't really leave any stone unturned in terms of advertising and promotion. LinkedIn, I have kids at that age where they're choosing their career paths, and they're also looking for co-op opportunities, summer jobs, and the schools are telling young people to create their profile on LinkedIn. So that's definitely a place you need to be active, whether it's that Gen Z audience or any job seeker, you definitely need to have a place on LinkedIn. And also the tech savvy part, the digital part, hire some co-ops to do that stuff for you. I mean, they have all the amazing ideas. I too, like Pauline said, I'm not tech savvy, and we hire within our organization a number of co-op students. We get as many as we can, as often as we can, to be honest. For 4 months, we prefer the 8-month stint, and we feel like it empowers them if we're saying, come to us with your ideas. We want your ideas. You're the audience, so tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us where we should be. And Erin, you mentioned trends, and I would say we found it really hard to stay on top of that because it changes like that. But I'm not on TikTok, but those co-op students are. So if they see something, we're like, jump on a trend, you know, create a video, let's do this. We will be part of it. But we need your ideas. We need you to come to us and tell us what we should be doing and how we should be giving, putting this information out that will attract, you know, people like your peers, you know, people like you. So hopefully that helps a little bit too.
Thank you. I have a question for Pat, but please, Pauline and Nicole, chime in if you want. For the last decade or so, we've been promoting the food and beverage industry as a very stable industry, one that continues to grow every year, regardless of any circumstance. But is this really a selling factor, an attraction factor for the younger generations? Is longevity with a company something that they're looking for? I'm just curious. What have you asked the question, Pat, in your previous surveys?
Let's see, am I on here? Yeah, I'm on. So if we just look to the survey, so job security is one of the main things the people Gen Z is looking for, but so is everybody else. When it comes to the message testing, that part didn't resonate as much. So it's not very exciting in a way, but it's probably not top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But job security is. So I mean, like, that's a way of talking about it. It's just maybe the key might be to find a more exciting way to talk about it. But I think it's important. It just doesn't have as much of a hook.
It just seems like the new generations don't want to be with a company for many years.
Well, there's that too. I mean, there's probably, sure there is labor market data that would show that, but I'm sure they'd want to do it on their own terms. So if you could give them job security, that's fine, but they're going to leave when they leave.
Any comments from you, Pauline? What have you experienced in this regard?
Well, we do ask questions exactly related to that around why have you applied to us, and job security is always in one of the top 3 reasons for why they do apply. We do, I would say, we focus on job security probably in our job postings. We haven't focused in on it, you know, as a specific target for our social media campaigns, although we do try to show people that have you know, started and had an opportunity to build a career with us. So I do think that that's important. One of the things we will be focusing on in some future campaigns, and Pat, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, is we are looking at doing an automation campaign to promote the fact that, I mean, we are technology forward, we are future focused, and again, just around that notion of we do have interesting work here in our industry.
Excellent.
I think that's a good idea. I think, like, some of the research that we've done over the years, like going back, and not just with FBO, but with the national organization, there's a lot of misconceptions. And the idea that it is high tech, we do have these systems, it's world class. You know, look at what, like, some of the things that, you know, the Dutch are doing. There's a lot of technology in here, and I think that would help, because the stereotype is not that.
Yeah, thank you. Nicole, you wanted to add a comment?
I was going to say, what I tend to focus on when job security comes into the conversation, and having recruited for over 10 years, is don't worry necessarily about staying, you know, I think you're right, Louise, there's that, oh, I might not want to stay with that company for, you know, I get 3 to 5 years and then I'm going to get itchy feet and want to move on. That's fine, but you can stay within the industry. If the company allows you to stay longer and gives you all the things you're looking for, then great. But I really focus on the fact that when you talk about job security, you do have job security if you are an industry expert, whether it's in HR or finance and accounting. As a recruiter, if someone comes to me and says, I need a new director of finance, all my clients are within food and beverage processing. I don't look outside the industry. So I always say this to students and new grads, you will have a job for life. It may not be at the same company necessarily, but you have a job for life within the industry. And that's why you don't burn bridges. The industry is big, but it's small. You could meet someone that you worked with in the past. And so you have to move through your career appropriately and professionally. But you don't have to stay within that company, but you have this lovely long career path that, you know, can zig and zag, but within within the sector, within the industry.
Yeah, so I guess the key is in how you're communicating that job stability, and for companies not to expect that people are going to stay with them, you know, for 20 or 25 years, and that's something difficult to deal with, because we need, you know, that's what we old people were used to. Anyway, we're running out of time, or we've run out of time. I want to thank our presenters for a great job today, and the people who attended the webinar. This is going to be posted on FBO's website shortly. So thank you very much. I appreciate your contribution to this webinar and hope you all have a really good day.